So we're in this series called Rejected to Restored, and our relationships with other people are a lot of the sources of the rejection that we experience in life. And so what I've done is we have asked people to send in questions that they have about the topic of rejection, and some send in questions about how do you deal with that when it comes to just other people that you have relationships with, any type of interpersonal relationship. So I'm going to ask the person who's helping me to give me the first question here in a second. Basically, we have people submit them in such a way that I don't know who's asking them. That way I'm answering by the leading of the Holy Spirit and not by the bias that I have about the person that I know. So what is the first question?
After being rejected by so many people, how do I address my own self-rejection?
Self-rejection. Yeah, that, you know what, that's a great question, because we talk a lot about rejection from other people, manipulation by other people, gaslighting by other people, but we can also be people who engage in those sort of harmful behaviors towards ourselves. So I think that's a great question. We can develop unknowingly this tendency to mirror the behavior that we see in other people. So if we've maybe, like say, growing up, we didn't have a lot of positive examples on how people treat other people, then we can become the people who then treat ourselves like that. And maybe even we can be people who treat other people like that in return. I would say that we first have to look at, we have to recognize the root. So I think that looking back and saying, where did I get this behavior from? Who did I learn that from? Who maybe am I mirroring? Are there any environments that I'm in now that I need to get out of so that I can conduct myself in a healthier way? So even as adults, we'd like to think that we are free thinkers, that we're not being heavily influenced by anyone else. But there's this reality that if you are in an environment that's not healthy, around people who aren't healthy, the longer you stay in that, the more likely it is that you will begin to or continue to engage in the same types of behaviors as them and not even be aware of it. So I would say that first you should take a look at or try to discern what the roots of that self-sabotaging or self-rejection behavior, try to identify the root of that, and then focus on adjusting your environments as much as you can so that you are not surrounded by that type of behavior and then therefore mirroring it because it's what you are around all day long. And I would say to also involve an accountability partner. So you got to get you some friends who will say, I can't let you talk about yourself like that. Like, this actually happened to me a couple weeks ago. I was talking to a friend and I was saying something that was negative, and I didn't even think of it as a negative thing towards myself. And I was talking to him on the phone, and he was real quiet for a second, and then he said, I can't let you keep saying that. You know, I'm your friend. I can't let you keep saying that. And I hadn't even any idea that I was saying this thing and that it was so negative. But then when I paused and I thought about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's not a helpful thing for me to say, in the situation that I'm facing. So I would say to get an accountability partner, somebody who you trust to say something like that to you. When they pick up on that behavior or you making statements like that, that they can be someone who says, like, don't say that about yourself. Or, and then also I would say you can do this yourself, or you can give permission to your accountability partner to do this for you as well. Start thinking about, when you hear yourself say something, think about, would you say that to someone else? If someone else was in the situation that you're in, would you say to them what you say to yourself? And often when we're in a stressful or negative situation, the way we speak to ourselves, we wouldn't dare speak to another person like that. We wouldn't be as hard on another person the way that we are on ourselves. So I would say to also learn that and practice that by saying, like, okay, would I say this to someone else in the same circumstance? And let your accountability partner hold you accountable for that as well. And what's the next question?
How do I deal with being terrified of connection with others because of the fear of rejection?
One more time.
How do I deal with being terrified of connection with others because of the fear of rejection?
Okay, how do I deal with being terrified of connection with others because of the fear of rejection? So I would say the first step in that is acceptance. It's the acceptance that any real connection with another person is a risk. And so I would say finding a space in yourself where you can accept that, and then also reminding yourself that you are a whole person, whether the next person accepts you or rejects you. You're still a whole person. And so, and that sounds like, well, of course I am. But we really do have to remind ourselves of that if a person does reject you, that does not necessarily mean that there's anything wrong with you or what you've done. Now, sometimes people get into a relationship and they do mistreat each other and they really don't have any business being in whatever type of relationship that they're in. But I would say first, accept that that is something that can happen, and accept that if it does, that you are still a whole person. And then I would say, I think for me, what I had to do was I had to reframe rejection in my life. And so what I had to tell myself was, if I enter into this new friendship or this new relationship or this new whatever it is, I had to think about it like, if this is a person that I value, that I care about very deeply, then I'm glad to have this experience with them, this relationship with them, even if it doesn't turn out the way that I want. And so I would just say, make sure that you're entering into relationships with people that you don't feel like it must go this certain way in order for this to have been a good thing. Find yourself in relationships with people that you're just like, wow, it's really a privilege to know them. And it's a privilege to be known by them. And then when we can relinquish that feeling of kind of ownership over another person, then we kind of can let the relationship breathe as it will naturally. And that often helps for things to just go better. Because when we're able to just kind of relax in a relationship, it's kind of like when people will say, like, how do I stop worrying? And the Bible talks about, like, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow has enough worries of its own or concerns of its own. And it can be really difficult to be someone who doesn't worry about what might happen. But I will say, often we worry ourselves into negative situations. We will worry about something so much that we will subconsciously start doing things that cause that negative thing to come to pass. So I would say that it's not that you have to act like rejection isn't possible. You don't have to live in a fairy tale about this new relationship or current relationships. But I would say that with acceptance comes ease. Because when you understand that this is a possibility, but this is also a wonderful person that I want to learn from, that I want to have this relationship with, and that I want to pour into their life and experience good things with them. When you look at it that way, and this takes some practice, because it took me a long time to feel like I could even have a new friend, because I had so much of a pattern going in my mind about all of these failed relationships that I just kind of felt like, well, I just don't need to try anymore, like no new friends. But what I've learned recently, there were a couple of kind of newish relationships, friendships that I had, and a few of them didn't go that well. And when I came out of them, because I had done that radical acceptance of knowing that I could care about this person and they could maybe even care about me some, and it still may not work, and it's okay if it doesn't. We can part, and it doesn't have to be this detrimental thing to my life. When I had gone through the process of that acceptance, and then after that the relationships did in fact fail, I don't know how to explain it, but I was just okay. And it wasn't that I didn't care about them or that I didn't value them or anything, but it was just kind of like that happens sometimes. And it doesn't have to mean that either of us are these horrible people. It's just that sometimes relationships don't last forever. And I think also just remembering that some people really are only purposed to be in your life temporarily. Not everybody is a forever person. And so when you think about it that way as well, that can help with this idea of like, okay, I'm scared to get into this new relationship because what if it fails or what if it ends? I would say not every end is a failure. Sometimes an end was just what it was supposed to be to begin with. This person was there for a season. And what's the next question?
How to have healthy and safe relationships with people who rejected you.
Oh, okay. So how do I have a safe and healthy relationship with someone who has rejected me in the past? Okay, so that's a really tough one because we're called to forgive people, but sometimes reconciliation is not possible or wise. So if someone does something to a person and it's just heinous and they just cannot be trusted, we are not required to then allow the same access to us that the person previously had. But let's say someone does something and they are wanting to show you that they have changed, that they're different now, that they are very apologetic, that they have changed their behaviors. I think there are a few different things to be on the lookout for. So first, I would say make sure that you have a clear picture in your mind what is like a no access, like a no return action. Because there are certain things that people will do that it's just too dangerous to allow access again. And not that God can't change their heart or, not that any of that is impossible, but be very careful that you're not allowing someone back in over a trauma bond. Because sometimes we can convince ourselves, well, it wasn't that bad. What they did wasn't that bad and it was horrible. So just ask for, some feedback from trusted people. Really assess, is this something, the thing that was done, is this person safe and healthy enough to even allow them back in? Okay, so then let's say this is a person who they made a mistake, but it wasn't indicative of their character. It was a mistake. Let's say that they say they're genuinely sorry. If someone tells you they're sorry, but they don't change their actions, they are manipulating you. And I have to say it that strongly because there is this kind of dance around that topic that can happen, but it's true. People make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I make tons of mistakes. But if someone apologizes to you and they say, oh, I'm really sorry and I want to make this right and I really want to still remain in your life, but their behavior does not change, they are manipulating you. And what they're trying to do is they're kind of trying to reinforce this bond that allows them to continue in the negative behavior without changing. So you have to be very careful about that. Okay, so then let's say the person apologizes and you see the fruit of changed behavior. Then I would say in that case, when you're letting the person back in, take things very slowly and intentionally. Because what you don't want to do is rush in too fast, too deeply, and then that person just really hasn't grown to that point to be able to steward well your heart and steward well that relationship. So I would say take things very slowly and intentionally and re-allow access in small bits. And a person who is really wanting to rectify the relationship will respect that. And I would say a red flag to watch out for is when someone has done something harmful to you and then they're mad when you don't allow them all the access back just like that without any testing period, without seeing if they've really made a change. If they act entitled about it, that's a red flag. And you need to be very careful because often what people are trying to do, manipulative people are trying to do when they apologize, is just to get you to allow them back without them having to extend any effort. And I'm not referring to holding things over people's heads and manipulating them in return, because you don't want to do that either. But what I am saying is set a healthy boundary and communicate with this person. Okay, I'm comfortable with this level of access and relationship with you. And you may not even, in some cases, you can't even say that. You just have to do it in action. You just have to kind of let things flow naturally so that they don't, because unfortunately, some people will hear something and they will use that as a way to then manipulate you because they know what your intention is. So I would just say be very careful and discerning about that, and don't be afraid to ask for maybe some people who you trust, who maybe are more experienced in a certain area than you. Ask them for their feedback on, do you think this is a good idea? Do you think this is safe? Is this level of re-access something that you think is reasonable? So these were really great questions, and basically what we have done in this series, Rejected to Restored, is that I've again had some people send in some questions, and so if you have some questions and you're watching, you can leave them in the comments, or if you'd like for them to be a little more anonymous, you can message me, and we'll find a way to make sure that we get those questions in and get as many answered as possible. So thank you so much for watching, and God bless you. See you soon.